Keith Dykes here with W.K.D Construction, and welcome to my channel. On today's video, we are going to put some beautifully cosmetic enhancements here on the Melton Farm Project. As you can see right there, we got a timber framed gable, and that's what we're going to build. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, y'all, today is the day. We're going to put our western rough sawn cedar beams up here in this little gable just to give it some weight, some girth, some curb appeal, and make it look good. I'll give you kind of a walkthrough of what I think we're going to do. Of course, we've got the LVL header right there. We're going to have to rip it down because when we started, I didn't really know what we were going to get into, and I just built that just to kind of help support the roof. Of course, it doesn't really need it, but these little bird box areas, the transitions, I wanted to keep that same size header just because I knew it was going to be kind of difficult to make the transition between cedar and the diamond coat siding. So we're going to leave those in there, but I'm going to rip them down. We're going to wrap them with a 1x12 western rough sawn cedar and kind of make it look like a beam. And then of course I got some 4x6. I ended up going with a 4x6 just because the width of the LVL without having to build it out very far. Plus you're going to be looking at the beam from this way, so it's going to be the 6-inch side down, and it'll definitely look chunkier. But inside it will be the 4-inch wide, which will still have some, you know, bulk to it, but it's a pretty good cost savings. I mean, it'd be different if you're like walking into a kitchen into a big house and you wanting that big thick beam. But here we're just basically wanting to do the cosmetically from out here, and it does save you quite a bit of money because you get into 6x8s, 8x8s. Man, they get expensive. Like the 6x6 on the back porch, man, those things were, I think they were $200 a piece, and they were 10 feet long. So $20 a foot for a 6x6. So you start figuring some 6x8s, and you're into $25, $27 a foot. So the 4x6 definitely will serve the same purpose and save Miss Susan some money. We'll get up a little closer. So I don't know, I've been thinking about it this morning. Of course, we've got our diamond coat, and I've got a plowed fascia, which we've got a little reveal hanging down the bottom. So I do like that, and I think I'm going to continue that on the bottom of this beam. So I'm thinking about the bottom side of the beam, we'll have a little reveal. Of course, it'll be all wrapped with western, it'll be wrapped with the cedar. But I think I'm going to keep that little dado joint running across here. That way I can tie that side into this side a little better, since everything's on the same plane, and I think it'll make it look a little cleaner. So once I got to measuring, so if we're hanging down a 1/2 inch here, we got the dado for the 3/4, and then our board is around 11 3/16. I'm basically going to rip this down to a 10-inch LVL, or 9.5 inches, or maybe 9 1/4. I can't remember exactly, but so we'll rip that down, which will be kind of a pain in the butt. But like I said, we really didn't know what we were getting into. I just built it, you know, on the fly. I didn't really have a set plan of how we were going to do it. I knew we'd figure it out once we got there. So that's what we're going to have to do. We're just going to have to rip this beam down a little bit so the 1x cedar will fit on there and be able to wrap it all the way. We'll have the reveal down on the bottom, but on the top I'm just going to inset and make everything flush. That way when you're looking at it here, it's just going to look like one big 1x12, or a 12-inch tall beam. Come back on this side. I think I'm going to do the cedar on this side as well. We'll drop it down, have the reveal, and then we can tie all this into after the fact. But we will have a vertical brace right in the center, and then we're going to go out probably at 45 degrees and meet that ceiling. And of course we'll have two, one on each side going up to meet at the peak. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beams. We're going to use some 10-inch timber screws to screw in through the top, and then on the outside I will get some metal plates made, either powder coat them or paint them, and then just make brackets, you know, that way we can screw and fasten, which we will screw all the wood together, but just for decoratively and for a little structural integrity, we will make brackets to go up onto the beams themselves and make that connection, you know, from the LVL wrapped header to the beam itself. So here's a timber frame screw. I think these are 10 inches long. So they'll be all hidden. We'll try to hide all the fasteners. That way you're not seeing a bunch of bolt heads and stuff. Try not to. We'll see what we, like I said, we're gonna see what we get into as we go. Alright, so I kerfed the back side. I just thirded it, and then we got about a 3/16 to 3/8 inch deep, basically just a kerf in it, because I found over the years, if you're using a big wide board, a lot of times in the cedar, you know, it has a natural cut to it, and if you don't give it that point to relax, to kind of flex back flat as you put it on, it'll still cup over the years. So I just put a kerf in it. That way it lays. It's a little more relaxed. There's not as much tension on it to get it flat. So just kerf it and you'll be good to go. You see how that has a little cut to it? It's just going to get worse, but now that we got a kerf in it, we can kind of set it down. It's a lot less tension to hold it down flat. So we're going to do a dado, and I just got my inexpensive Amibro dado set. I've had it for several years. It does really good. I know there are more expensive ones, but this works for on hand on the job site. You just got your cutter head and then your inside outside. Just put it on there to your thickness, which is 3/4. Have our dado, little scrap piece. Of course, our bottom of the board will be sticking on there like that on the bottom of the header, and it just gives you a little more play with the when you do a beam like that.
Tight bond.
3, the ultimate.
So we got the Lamello P10 Tensile clips in there.
I do.
So just using this pencil as a gauge block to allow for enough hangover for our dado, for the fit in our dado.
What? What? I thought you bullshitting. You got no electric on that thing. The weeds.
Hold it down.
No, no, these. Keep going, keep going. Alright, hold on. Keep going. Pull down on it, so.
Pull down more.
Yes, bind it. Alright, let go. Alright.
So just for a little added protection for this LVL, of course all of our wood will be glued and everything, screwed and hopefully pretty weather tight, but put a little zip tape on top just to try to ensure that that's not gonna get any water damage over the years, or less of it. I mean, it is gonna get some weather in here, not a whole lot. Most of it's going to come from the other side of the house and kind of blow this way. So
Now we're setting the plumb bob with a laser up to the center point of the soffit where it meets, and then we'll mark the beam, and then we'll cut our, because we're going to have to piece our one bar on either side, and that'll give us a starting location or center location for our middle brace there too.
Come down. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Need a bow?
So the best plan of action is to make you some templates. Yep. I just took some 1x8 and ripped it down 6 inches because my beam's going to be 6 inches. And then we're just marking the angles, plumbing them, and just making sure they fit. We'll get them in place, and we can measure and cut our piece one time, because there's no mistake. You can't make a mistake. It's one or you just bought a week's worth of pay, you know what I mean? So do it right the first time. We got the first board cut. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little nervous. So we got to stick it up there and make sure it still fits. Like I said, you only get one chance to cut a $500 board, so don't F it up, yellow, you know what I mean? I'll show you how we got that measurement. I use a little jig and a couple pieces, and we add some length to it, but I'll show you. It fit. So now we got to do a little notching on the bottom to get it where it comes out flush with the beam, and mark our holes, chalk a line straight to keep our beam straight. It does have a little bow to it, and Then we can run some 10-inch timber screws up through the beam into the blocking that we previously installed before we put up the ceiling there. Oh, damn it. Hey, you got a cord out. Number dos. Oh. Yep.
That's moving. Keep going. A little bit more. Come on. Right there. That's good.
So what we had to do is we plumb bobbed right in the center to the very top, found that point, measured over at that end, which is 4 inches, chalked a line. That board had a little bow to it, so I wanted to be able to push it out versus trying to push it back in, because I had the house I could use to push the beam out. And so now we're just going to the chalk line using the timber screws right through there, and that'll be mounted really solid. All right, so now that we have our first beam in, we need to measure from long point to long point, and it's kind of, there's no real easy way just to put your tape measure up there and get an accurate measurement. So this is what I did. I took a pattern, which finds our angle that matches the beam up there, measured down 10 inches, made me a little curve. Steve will hold that at the top. We can put our tape in it, and then here is our bottom angle that sits down on the beam like that. I marked 10 inches here, so I'll measure from that kerf. We'll take the tape, put the patterns in there, measure from the kerf to our 10-inch mark, and then that's all we need to do. Then we can put this on the beam, measure from the kerf to this mark the ends, and you're good to go.
.142 long.
142 long. All right, so we got our tape hooked, our pattern where we want it, because I had a little barked edge on there. Brent brings it down. We need 142 long to our point. Got it. Flushed on the top. All we gotta do is mark it. So luckily a 4-inch board you can cut with chop saw.
Only if it's a 12.
Yeah, if it's a 12-inch sliding compound miter saw. Actually, go back that way just a little, Steve. Yeah. I had to do a little notching, a little mortising of this side so it fits against the bird box. I highly recommend doing the outside first before you start getting all that meat, because Last time it didn't look so pretty. I made the outside run, but then on the inside my router bit sucked down and got in there, which was fine. You're not going to see it, but try to get your outside done first before you really start routering heavy. Alright, so we notched out. That's what I was talking about. If you got to reset your router at all, you kind of get a little boogered up in the middle, or I do with that little palm router. But get your outside perimeter done, that way in case that happens you're not going to see it.
Are you all the way in?
Yeah.
Gotta go way up.
Yeah, I gotta go up about half an inch to the quarter.
Is that right there? You gonna stay? You got it for a second?
Yeah, I got this.
Good?
I need no stinking screws.
Take this out. Let's go ahead and scribe it. So took the laser, set it up on the beam, lasered across, and it needs to go up about 3/16. It had a little swag in the header. So he's just putting it on. We plumbed it with the plumb bob, and we're just taking it and marking the angle. That way we've got something to go by, and then I will just subtract 3/16. That way we can kind of get the beam up. I'll use those big headed screws because we're going to have actually a brace that goes to that screw right there, so to kind of cover that up. We probably still will have to have some showing, but trying to hide as many fasteners as we can. Little adjustment. Pretty close.
Pretty close. Just gonna have to add a little bit on it.
Yeah. I took some siding, some leftover diamond coat siding, ripped it 6 inches so we could have a pattern for our cross bracing. I just used, we just kind of stuck it up there and made this at a 45-degree angle so I can have a nice clean 90-degree corner right there, and then just kind of mark it to length, and I'm gonna just put it on top of the board, we'll cut it and go from there. Be the easiest way. Yep, 2 for 1. 2 for 1.
That'll go.
Like a glove. Yeah.
Yep.
She good?
A little gap there.
Huh?
Got a little bit of a gap there.
This need to be, well, this post
Yeah.
right here might be a little
Mhm.
above a little bit. And I can kind of,
Other than that,
well, I mean, it ain't no big. This one's kind of twisted the other one
Yeah.
a little bit.
Those are the GRK trim-headed screws. And then we're also using Simpson's. How many? Yeah, the truss drive screws, 6-inch. I just got those because the head's a little smaller. They won't create big of a, you know, like that. You'll be able to see this kind of be hidden a little bit. You can see we just put the truss right onto the wood ceiling. Then we'll come back and we'll rip a little cedar lathing strip and cover that gap. Looks pretty cool. All right, so we're scribing to the wall or beam to the wall, and this is a good way. Just take your carpenter's pencil and it pretty much spaces it out, whatever you need, and then I'll cut it and we'll check it and see. Got a fever of 103. Jimmy's putting the last little bit of stain on that little section we got. Got these side headers. We ended up just wrapping them with cedar on both sides, and it just ties into the poplar. I don't know, it's kind of a lot of stuff going on. I wanted to do the beam this way, you know, on the bottom so it would match that, and then it was hard to be able to break it from here to the cedar. I don't know, so that was the way I came up with that I thought would absolutely look the best. And then we did where the beam rested against the poplar, the wood ceiling. There was about a 1/2 inch gap, 3/4 inch, probably a 1/2 inch gap in between there and the soffit. So we just took a piece of cedar and ripped it about 1 1/8 inches, and then just trimmed it out up the gable there. All right, y'all, there we have it. That was my video on how we built some Western rough sawn cedar timber beams for the gable here at the Melton Farm Project. All the beams are up, and man, they look killer. They look really good. I'm happy with the way everything turned out. The little transition between the gable and then the regular roof overhang. Did a little head scratching, but overall it looks very clean. Turned out really slick. But we're not done with the beams yet, because we're going to make some brackets. I've got some brackets, custom brackets that I'm going to make up out of some 1/4 inch thick steel, and we'll paint them up, and it just accentuates the look of the beam. You know, a lot of times you go to somewhere and you can kind of see a big bracket. You know, since we made this on site, it's not something that you can just buy, so it's a lot better to make it. And I'm gonna make my own. So with the help of Mr. Jay Robinson, the one and only Jay Robinson, he's gonna help me, and we're gonna get these things made up, welded up, and put into action, man. Put them up, and it makes the beams look 100 times better. I don't know why, but anyway, just that little pop of black on there. It looks fire. If y'all have been following along with me here on the Melton Farm Project, then you know that we are getting really close to finishing up this project. I mean, we only like just a few things on the outside, and the outside will be complete. We got to do the front porch columns, which we're going to do a tapered cedar and then stone on the bottom, so they turn out pretty cool. If you see at the very first of the video on my intro, you can actually see the columns, and they turned out slick, man. I was super happy about that.
And on the inside, we still got to jump in there. We've got cabinetry, we've got tile to do, some backsplash, set the cabinets, countertops, you know, all the finishing stuff. We're doing trim out some beams, some cased openings and stuff. So we got some cool stuff still going on the inside. But like I said, the project is nearing to the end. Thank you for watching, and got it, coach.